Welcome back to the BetCanada channel. Katie Caldwell and Jeff Lloyd here with you. Jeff, let's get into one of the more interesting quarterback battles heading into the season, the Cleveland Browns. So, four guys in the mix right now: Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. You are our resident Browns expert. How do you see this shaking out as we move through camp?
It's kind of funny because, once the season ended in 2024 and we started, where is this going with the Browns at the quarterback position? It was basically prefaced with this is not going to be a beauty pageant by any means
Mm,
whatsoever. And there just was never essentially anybody available. There was one quarterback in the draft that everybody thought was probably going to be a guy within the league. And unfortunately, the Tennessee Titans held the selection and they did take Cam Ward. We bandied about Shador Sanders for weeks and
yep.
months. And ultimately, Shador Sanders ended up falling to the fifth round, and the Browns drafted him after they already drafted Dylan Gabriel, which means that they had ultimately already passed on Shador Sanders numerous times. So now you get where we are now, and you have Joe Flacco. And the thing with Joe Flacco, and why I think he should be the first up to bat for start for this team is you have proof. Joe Flacco came in 2023 in a really strange situation for Cleveland and
Mhm.
got this team to the playoffs. So he's got familiarity with the franchise, with the coaching staff, the system. And if you feel like you need to owe that to your veterans to say, hey, we got to put our best foot forward here, because no team should go into the season and say, I don't think we're competing. I don't think we're making the playoffs. You wait till basically your season tells you that that's what the story is, and then start maybe moving some furniture around from there.
Mm,
The Kenny Pickett thing. Now, Kenny Pickett, look, Pittsburgh had him for 2 years. He played well, had a winning record and went to the again playoffs both years. And then they moved on for him for Justin Fields, who was probably less proven at the time than Kenny Pickett was, and obviously for Russell Wilson as well. Nobody in the NFL was beating down the doors for Kenny Pickett when the Pittsburgh Steelers were moving on from him. Now, Kenny Pickett goes to Philadelphia, plays a little bit, and sometimes teams will tell you the story themselves. One of the people I was talking about from the Philadelphia Eagles at the quarterback position was their third quarterback from 2024, Tanner McKee. Browns, go get this guy. Look at this guy. He kind of built like Joe Flacco, kind of throws the ball like Joe Flacco. The Browns ended up ultimately trading for Kenny Pickett. So again, now here was Kenny Pickett available, and there was not 30 NFL teams trying to beat down the door to the Cleveland Browns, to the Philadelphia Eagles to go get him. So you're going to have those two in a weird battle for who's going to be number one, overall, which maybe will only be for week one.
mm,
You have two rookie quarterbacks. We've never really seen teams with this. One of the early ones you can remember where something was like this was certainly RG3 and Kirk Cousins. And, not to say that that's how it's going to turn out, but that year, Kirk Cousins was drafted after RG3. Here we are now, Kirk Cousins obviously had long established career. But you have Gabriel, you have Sanders. How do you develop both? Now,
mm,
I have no idea how that works because, obviously there's going to be some coaches within that room who maybe think that Gabriel's the better quarterback. There's probably going to be a
mm,
couple of guys who thinks that maybe Sanders is the quarterback. So now you have this weird position where these two are not only competing against each other, they're also competing against two veterans, which makes for a very, very difficult situation. And which makes this entire thing even more weirder is it probably at the end of the day doesn't necessarily matter how this works. Because unless Sanders or Gabriel get 10 plus starts and play extremely well, the Browns hold 2 first-round picks in the 26 NFL draft. So if anybody wants to be in pole position, get after one of these quarterbacks, the Browns are probably in that position.
mm,
Then you're going to have Flacco's probably not going to play in the preseason. Pickett, if he doesn't play well, you're not going to play Flacco because if you're going to start him, you don't really want to waste the 40-year-old in August. If Pickett doesn't play well, then basically he auditioned, didn't get the gig. Well, maybe Flacco didn't audition, but did get the gig. And then Andrew Berry, of course, today gets asked by Cleveland media, is there any scenario where you see that maybe you go to the regular season with all four quarterbacks on the active 53? And Andrew Berry says, yeah, I can see that scenario. So who knows where this is going at this point?
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. Wow. Well, a former Browns CEO, Joe Banner, so he was throwing a bit of cold water on the Shedeur Sanders hype. So he hinted on Twitter that Dylan Gabriel is currently ahead of Shedeur and said some with the Browns are more excited about Gabriel. What do you make of that?
Well, there and this came out, and I think it was, I think Judy Battista maybe who came out with it. And what it is the Browns became enamored through the process with Dylan Gabriel. But enamored kind of means, his film study, the way he could progress through a play that's written on film. You know, can can play, and that's my biggest concern. Look, Dylan Gabriel last year out of Oregon was very, very impressive. But I mean, you just look at him physically, he's obviously very lacking in size. He is not a big guy. Everybody kind of got wowed by a throw yesterday that would have been an interception in any preseason game. I don't know what happened to the defensive back who was supposed to be, but the receiver literally had to stop and turn around to come get the ball. And everybody was like, wow. No, well, he threw it far, but yeah, that would have not have happened in a game. There's no way that would have worked out. Dylan Gabriel's just going to have to prove it on the field,
Mm.
which has probably been Dylan Gabriel's deal his entire life. Because, it's the old, Rudy thing 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, da 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 da. He just doesn't look like other quarterbacks. But the arm is legit. The arm is pretty
Mhm.
strong. There's also the case that you look around the NFL and you try to find me left handed quarterbacks. There's not many of them. I
I
don't
can
know
think of
why.
one.
It's just one of those weird. Yeah, I mean, it's just that weird anomaly where it's
Yeah.
just not really a thing because so many quarterbacks are right-handed. Therefore, offenses aren't built for left-handed quarterbacks.
Mhm.
Receivers, running games, they're just not usually built or predicated of playing with a left-handed quarterback. So we certainly get those things, working against him. The Sanders thing, and look, for Shador, basically all he has done, besides a couple speeding tickets since he's gotten to Cleveland, is just work every day and
Mhm.
ingratiate himself in within the culture and in the community. And it's gonna be weird because if the Browns truly favor Dylan Gabriel, he better be the guy. He better be able to
Mm.
play because I'm telling you right now, this fan base is ready to go bananas for Shador Sanders. So, I mean, if they were to put Dylan Gabriel in, say, week 3, week 4, and Dylan Gabriel puts up an 11 for 24 with 2 interceptions, there is going to be a mutiny between the fans and the organization. There already is one. There always is one between Browns fans and the organization itself. But I don't think, and for me, look, I know Dylan Gabriel was drafted in the 3rd round. I know Shador Sanders was drafted in the 5th round. But my reservations and concerns, and we talked about this many moons ago,
Mhm.
with Shador Sanders weren't necessarily about actually playing the game. It was about, playing behind a poor offensive line. He was taking too many bad sacks. He was, basically taking sacks, costing points. Those things can improve in the NFL. They should improve in the NFL with their offensive line play. I had no question about him physically throwing the ball. You look, every wide receiver he played with at Colorado is in an NFL camp right now. He was able to feed them, get them there. It's going to be a wild and crazy battle, certainly, and whatever's going to go on here with the Cleveland Browns, with the 4 of them. And again, it's the ultimate thing of is this could be the biggest, much ado about nothing because the Browns could end up between their first round pick and the Jacksonville Jaguars first round pick. There's not a strange notion where you could say that maybe the Browns ended up with 2 picks in the first 6 in next April's draft, which basically means they're writing their ticket to the quarterback they would want.